Go, NTDO 212, complex.
DPS, go. Inco, go. PUS, go. Surgeon, go. Booster, go. Copy that. We have a go from you guys.
This is Talking Sound.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome once again to the Talking Sound Podcast, the only podcast on the internet where negative 10 is a number to be desired, coming at you live from the throbbing heart of rock and roll, that is Austin, Texas. Today on the Talking Sound Podcast, we're going to get digital on it, y'all. Everybody out there who listens to the podcast regularly knows that I am an analog fanatic. I love my outboard gear. I love fixing and using vintage equipment. Even in my studio, most of my synthesizers are either standalone synths or rack mount synthesizers. I don't really reach for the VST too often. And you know, it's odd. I've recently found myself moving more into that area. But it's mainly just for raw tracking. I actually just recently made the educated decision that I no longer need to mix my music. I definitely need an external ear on the mix and on the mastering, and I've contacted a couple friends of mine that were like, we would love to mix your music. So I'm very much looking forward to that and hearing what they can do with my work. And on that note, there's a reason I'm talking about that. I'm not just self-aggrandizing everybody. It's because in addition to all of the analog gear I actually use a little bit of live stuff that's digital as well. And I try to veer away for a little while, you know, whenever I play a lot of complex electronica and electronic music. So, for me to be able to do what I do with analog gear is hard. I would literally need a panoply of, I couldn't even tell you how many synthesizers and tracks. However, for me to come through with a couple of digital devices that can trigger some of that stuff or supply some of those sounds for me, it can really be helpful. Now, for a while, like I said, I did bring a backup laptop that actually threw tracks out of Virtual DJ that I would play to. And, you know, do all kinds of live looping, triggering, play to them with my partner in Shakuhachi Jones, Wes Goins, who played Shakuhachi flute. We had a really interesting action going on with that. And what we're going to do today is actually go through, I use quite a few apps on mobile devices, phones, live, even tablets. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. If we can just tune in our little overhead cam here, you can see that we've got this nice little tablet. This is actually one of my new loves. I love this little thing. This is a Dragon tablet. This little tablet comes to us by way of Amazon, and it's actually a tiny little quad-core processor with 1 gig of RAM on it. And, you know, if you're using your tablet for a lot of e-reading, for a lot of web cruising, things like that, it's understandable that you might be hesitant to use it as a triggering device. I could utterly see how that could be the case. I personally hesitated to do such things myself simply because of the fact that it was, you know, squirrely for a while there whenever it came to digital. It's gotten pretty rock solid these days, folks, and like I said previously, I always have my little LGTI box plugged in so that I can lift ground noises and adjust my own volume post fader on the, or post device. But this little Dragon tablet is great. It's got, the higher quality ones have an HDMI out, so if you're like me and you actually throw videos, you can actually have an HDMI out with full high def resolution for your videos as well for backing tracks. But this one I have simply as a synthesis device. I use this to build a few tracks live and to use a few different apps to create synthesized sounds live. Now, what we're going to do is go through just a few of those, just a few of my favorites here. So let's go ahead and take a look at my first go-to. My first go-to would probably be in the lines of Morph Wiz. Morph Wiz is designed by Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater, and this guy for those of you that aren't familiar with progressive rock and roll, I guess I described Rush as the musicians band, and they are definitely Dream Theater's right up there with that. They are uber precise in what they do. The sound is like no other, and the technique that it takes to play what they play is utterly phenomenal. Jordan Rudess is hands down one of the best keyboard players and programmers out there. His sounds are phenomenal. And what he did with this was basically go to some designers and say, hey man, like I want what I would use. I want an app that I would use where I can pull out my phone or something like that and jam live. And it's great. This app is called Morph Wiz. Morphwiz. It's available on both the Apple and the Android market. Now, I will tell you this. The app on the Apple market is a little bit more in-depth than the app on the Android market. You can go in and change a lot more parameters than you can on the Android version. You can go in and change delay rates, delay times, milliseconds. You can go in and dial in individual notes in a scale, all kinds of crazy stuff. But even the one on the Android is great. And I've got it dialed in here. You can see here it's very easy to select through and scroll different sounds that you can then change. We're going to start off with one of my favorites here, Spirit Carries On. That's what I just had loaded up. And you can hear that it's got some great sounds. Not only that, but the graphics are super interactive with it. And it's great. You can go in, you can lock your pitch down, you can come in and tell it to change your scale, and you can actually go to like a chromatic scale. That's what I have it set in most of the time, just because it makes the glissandos a little bit better. Things like that. You can give it different values, ranges, all kinds of stuff. You can try it out while you're in there. You can go in and tell it what note of the scale you want. So if you want a C sharp chromatic scale, you can have that. If you would like to have an F major chromatic scale, you can have that. You can go in and say melodic minor or Ionian. It's got all kinds of different modes and ranges that you can set. You can set different octave ranges to give you different amounts of sound. I normally keep it locked in at about 1.5 or 2, something like that, just because I find I get a little bit better control off of it as far as the subtleties of movement whenever you're locked in. But you can come in here and you can see you can change the delay rate. You can get no delay if you want and just have it drop dead. So it's great, going through and just playing with this kind of stuff really does give you a whole new perspective, a whole new look at different ranges that you can do live. And it looks really cool too, not to mention that. I remember in Shaq Jones, Wes always had his iPhone strapped to his wrist on a little sports device, and it was going wirelessly to my mixer and sampler, and I could grab all of his stuff and play around with it. But coming back to this, you can see here, here's another one that's very analog synth sounding, called Rush Analog. That's very 80s hardcore synthesizer sound, even coming through and picking some of them like Dream Machine is another great one. And any of them that have this groovy little spinning galaxy here, I'm going to go crazy on it in a minute. But this is how interactive it's gotten and how fun it's gotten, y'all. As you're playing, you notice that, as you move around, that the graphics get faster and faster, and that galaxy, oh, look, there's more lights coming on, oh, look at that, there's Jordan Rudess, the wizard himself, hopping out on his little broomstick to make sure that you are jamming properly and having fun. But it's great. And there he is again, coming through. And it's just super fun, You can go through and have all kinds of sick fun with this stuff on stage. You can go through and really dial in some great stuff that you can save and take with you that doesn't take up an entire unit. You know, I mean, the great thing about this Dragon tablet, I've been recommending it to everybody. Here's the kicker, y'all. Are you ready for it? I'm even going to take a drink of my iced tea before I let you know. This costs $35 on Amazon. $35, y'all. $35.99. You can buy refurbed ones for cheaper. You can buy larger ones for more. You can buy them with HDMI outputs for more. I got a basic one because all I'm using it for is things like this. Just some little touch synthesizers. That's literally about all that's programmed in on it. You know, there are some other apps like, you know, my banking app, things like that that are light, not really duty cycling on the RAM that stay live in the background. That's really the key with devices, is to keep them as light as possible as far as memory load. So that's Morph Wiz. That's just a brief introduction to that one. We're going to give you a couple more before we leave. Another one that I use frequently is called Plasma Sound. And this one is kind of the same as Morph Wiz. All three of these are really touch synthesizers, kind of akin to, I would say, the Chaos Pad by Korg, something like that, or a standard XY pad that you might find on any other synthesizer out there, or Beat Machine. Now, I do a lot of, as I said, electronic music, electronica. So things like this befit me well. They actually look great on stage. They provide a sleek-looking profile. People always wonder what you're doing. Anytime I'm done with the show, people come up and want to look at my rig and ask me questions about it. You know, like, oh my God, what's that for? I actually have two of these now. One of them specifically for triggering my samples so that I can just tap it and it goes. And then one for touch synthesizers. And that keeps me from having to carry around a $200-300 computer that has breakable keys, everything else. I have military-grade screen protectors on mine, so even if the screen should shatter, I can still use it. It won't slice my fingers or anything live. And at the ripe, expensive cost of $35.99, they are very easily replaceable. So just some quick solutions there financially to people like me who, you know, fiend for toys like this. I want to say Morph Wiz, just to give you an idea, not all of these apps are free now. Some of them do have free versions. I know Morph Wiz, if I'm not mistaken, had a free version on the on the Android market for a while. I can't remember if they had one on iTunes or not. But both of them are, I want to say it's $9.99 for the one on iTunes. I think $5.99 or $7.99 for the one on Android. But as I said, it's not quite as in-depth. But it is one of those things, much like the app that I showed a couple weeks ago in the episode about tools for audio engineers. You know, the audio engineering tool that shows you frequencies in a room. It's totally worth that $3.99 whenever you're talking about the panoply of sounds and the palette of colors that you get to work with out of a $35 device and a $10 app. That's $45. I don't know of too many instruments out there that are going to give me that kind of bang for my buck. So this is really, really a great solution. Now, looking over here at Plasma Sound, you can see that the interface is really fairly stark. It's simple. And the colors and graphics are great. The sounds are phenomenal. There's some nice, really sweet glissando sounds. You know, you can come in and change the motion of the screen, things like that. You can come in up over here and dial in effects like attack. You can make the attack longer, you know, to where it takes longer for the sound to develop. You can set the decay up wicked high too and make it to where that sound just kind of stays in there and it takes forever for that to go away. You can also come in and change the type of the wave. If instead of, let's say, a sine wave, which I am highly partial to, let's say that you wanted to do a triangle wave instead. So you could come right over here and do a triangle wave like that. And you could even come in here and do a square wave. So You know, you really do have sawtooth. But you really do have a lot of variety and sound that you can get out of this stuff. I want to say that the Pro version of this app cost a whopping $2.50, something like that. And you can go in and change all kinds of stuff. You can see you can change vibrato, tremolo, filter cutoffs. You know, you can change delay times and the amount of feedback. You know, just the possibilities nowadays with tablets and things like that are truly endless possibilities to go through and be creative, have fun with it. You know, back in the day, you did have to invest thousands and thousands of dollars in external synthesizers, sequencers, stuff like that were large, bulky, heavy. You had to have big road cases in order to deal with them, in order for them to be able to, you know, not break while you're on the road, that kind of stuff. So the fact that you can get all of that now in a nice, easy, configurable package that is a tablet is fantastic. And when we're done here, I'll actually show you the tablet itself and how large it is, and you will be surprised, quite honestly. So moving right along, the next app that I love is called Pixel Wave, and it's great. It's by a Russian programmer. And you can see here it's got a little waveform drawn out. That is the standard waveform that comes set. Is a sine wave. And the cool thing about Pixel Wave is that you can actually live adjust the waveform that you are generating. So if you look down here, you can see, you know, as I move my finger, you can see all of the tiny little waveforms down there showing you what kind of waveform you are creating. And you can see how that sine wave is matching up with the sine wave up top. Now, watch this. As I come in, I'm going to create a square wave. That's actually a squared ramp right there. And you can see how the synthesizer down bottom is following that, how it's a totally different sound than what was going on before. And it's great because if you know what kind of wave you're looking for, if you know what kind of sound you're looking for and can come close to it, you know, you can actually do some really great stuff. There's a generalized sine wave again. Here's a decent little sawtooth wave. You know, it's not extremely accurate. I'm sure if I was using a stylus, that it would be a whole lot more accurate. I'm just not a stylus user. As you can see, you know, you have to hit above the tone there to be able to change the frequency patterns. But once you go through and change your patterns, you can get all kinds of sounds out of this, you know, and live as well. You know, as opposed to having you go through, tweak things, all that kind of stuff. If you can remember what your pattern looked like, you can literally draw your pattern and then play live. And, you know, as long as you're fairly close, most of the time with synthesis, that's where it's at. You know, that's the plus side about analog synthesis, is that there's always a little bit of variation inside of there, and things like this, where it's not going to give you the perfect exact wave, really do kind of give you that analog feel with something digital. Now, once again, these are just a few of the apps that I use. That's 3 of them. I'm trying to not overwhelm, not overload, give people kind of an idea of what they can do, what some of the options are out there. With these 3 apps, that's one by Jordan Rudess, which was Morph Wiz, as well as the Pixel Wave app here and the Plasma Sound. And even with those 3, I want to say that the Pixel Wave that I bought, let's see, it'll start up, and you can see right there, even from a cold boot, that is a quick startup time for an app. on a device, and for you to be able to come in and say, "Go Morph Wiz," well, bam, there it is. You know, instead of having to dial through something, find it, all that kind of stuff. It really, really does change the game, folks. Now, pardon me here for a moment as I disconnect this from the Velcro on here, and you can see exactly how large this tablet is. This little Dragon tablet is 7 inches, and it is absolutely phenomenal. I have loved this thing. I've got it inside of a little shell. It takes an external 32 gig, up to 32 gig SD card. Is it 32 or is it 64? It may be 64. Let's see. No, it is a 32. The max that it will take is a 32. It has 1 gig built into it. So with that, you can really, if you pop whatever apps you need to. We'll get into some more apps that I use in other episodes. There are some like Caustic that I use that, man, that's an episode unto itself, because that is like a virtual rack of synthesizers. Those were just a few of the touch synth apps that I use that are super fun and fantastic, y'all. And, speaking of apps, right now on the Patreon page, we have the fundraiser for the Talking Sound app. We are fairly close. We're a few $100s away from being able to purchase our app in the App Store that would let you get all of this stuff right in the palm of your hand, push notifications whenever new articles are posted, whenever new episodes come out, schedules of upcoming events, upcoming episodes, audience interaction where you can send us messages that give us ideas for episodes or technical questions for articles. And I absolutely love Patreon. I adore it. I love what they're doing. As opposed to most crowdfunding stuff, this actually lets people set up as a patron of someone. So just like back in the 1700s, 1600s, even nowadays, whenever artists have patrons that basically pay them to continuously make art, that's what Patreon does. It allows people to set up a crowdfunding source where you, the audience, are the person that helps us through regular donation, just like you would with your community television station or community radio station. I used to do it and still do it with 90.1 KPFT in Houston, and have looked into doing it with 89.5 KMFA here in Austin, the classical music station that I beautifully avail myself of so frequently. And those community sources, things like this that provide an outlet for people, that give them all of the latest industry news, things like that, that's what it's about. I don't charge to be a member of the blog. I don't charge to get copies of the podcast. I don't even charge for downloads of the podcast. I'm a huge fan of Coast to Coast AM, and it kind of saddens me that I can't even get a free commercial-free episode. I have to record it off the air. While you're online, checking out Patreon, looking at these apps in your local app stores, be it Apple, be it the Android market, please stop on by, check us out, www.talkingsoundshow.com. There on the website, you can find everything, the episodes in both video and audio format, where you can download them, watch them, enjoy them, share them with friends. There are numerous share functions there at the bottom of every article and the bottom of every video and media player on the site, so that you can share this website with everyone. We just got a whole bunch of new RSS feeds from major manufacturers. Right now we're posting from Shure, Mogami, MXL, Neve, Rupert Neve, all kinds of manufacturers to give you the latest in industry news, the latest in toys and gadgets that are coming out that you can use to make your art, to ply your trade. And on that note, everybody, thank you so much. Until next time, I am Christopher Jordan, your host, and this has been the Talking Sound Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep sharing it with everybody, and keep reaching for 11, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.